Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host, broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. Join me as always, Mega Jesse. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff to get into. We'll be discussing a education finance bill, the appropriations. The Democrats are outplaying the Republicans on that bill. They're using their leverage as a tie in the House. It'd be nice to see Republicans use their leverage. We'll discuss all of the details surrounding that. We'll discuss a state government finance bill that increases Keith Ellison's budget, gives money to an LGBTQIA2S+. I think I got that right.
Yep, you did.
So spending money to a council on that. Republicans are behind this bill. We'll discuss what's going on in the details of that. We'll wrap up talking about how Trump is ousting Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor. Lots of interesting stuff on that. I see we've already got Billy 22, Tucker 91, Brad Ganser, Truth Wins and MN, and Napkin 8 in the comments. Nice to see all of you guys. If you want to interrupt, make sure to drop a Rumble rant, and we'll skip right to your topic.
No, you got to spice it up. You got to be. If you want to interrupt us at any time,
yeah,
hit that Rumble rant button. No one's gonna do it, Jesse.
Yeah, I don't.
You got to sell it, buddy.
I don't think it's based on whether or not I say it or not. But maybe I'll spice it up next time.
I can see Brad Ganser doing it just because of that.
Maybe.
Running the dials as always, Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing good. I have food right next to me, so I'm happy. I'm ready. Let's get into it.
Food on one side, a gal on the other side. Crystal's watching the show first time, right? Crystal, first time?
She is.
Shout. Yep, there you go. Thumbs up. She does exist. We are doing this show here thanks to our great sponsors, Warren Wessel, Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give my good friend Warren a call at 612-419-7453. And if you're buying a home, go to the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com, or you can just check them out on Facebook or X, because they got a top-notch beam game. Some people think, is this a real company, John Galt Mortgage Company? Yes, they do damn good mortgages, but why not meme while you're at it, too? And you can tell from the memes, they think just like you and me. Also, we're brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Let's get right into it, Jesse. We talked about this when I think it was the first week of February, and all of a sudden there's this big announcement that Republicans have got a negotiated deal with the Democrats. And they're out there gaslighting us. Oh, this is a great deal.
Yeah.
Despite Tuesday Walter telling us, there's under no circumstance where Democrats get to negotiate. They didn't even show up to work for the last month, right? And then all of a sudden they got this big deal, which seats Brad Tabke. Like, literally, a guy wins by a 14-point margin, allegedly, but 21 ballots are thrown away into the trash can. I mean, you would think that should be, from an election integrity standpoint, a new election, right? Which could be done, and maybe Brad wins again, but at least we know it's a justifiable win.
And all you needed was a majority within the state house to be able to reject that election certificate. The Republicans had a majority of 67 to 66 at the beginning of the session, so they had every authority and every opportunity to be able to do that. We already got a $5 Rumble rant from Brad Ganser. He says, I'm a sucker for a good pitch. The GOP is so bad at negotiating. Maybe we need the car salesman from Crown back. Hashtag Wednesday Walter approved. Obviously, probably discussing, his name just slipped my mind.
Kurt
Dowd, yeah. So I don't think so. I don't know if Kurt Dowd would be helping out in this situation. He would probably be just like Walter Hudson and all these other rhinos that are advocating for these unconstitutional omnibus bills.
Right, yeah, the ones that they were against back before they ran. Well, anyhow, they talk about this big deal, and we just look at it. Listen, you got to remember, we were all on board the House Republicans. They started out saying we're not going to seat Brad Tabke. We're looking at that election. They were talking tough on the Democrats when the Democrats didn't even show up. I mean, it seems like forever ago. The Democrats started the Minnesota legislative session this year, literally not showing up. We argued on the show. They didn't even swear in. Are they even legislators? Right. They had this private swearing in ceremony before it even says in the Constitution they're supposed to show up. Anyhow.
And the Republicans accepted it.
And they accepted it. And then they cut a deal. Brad Tabke gets set. And the big win, they told us, was a fraud committee, which we have yet to see any real product come out of. And they get the gavel, which I think the Democrats knew what they were doing on that one, too. Give the Republicans a gavel, screw them up. And we've said this on the show. And then we get to blame the Republican speaker for. And I think that's where this ends up today. So let's go ahead and pull up the A1, Dawson. This is an article from MinnPost. It says, is the Minnesota House power sharing agreement unraveling? I'm sorry, I forgot one other very important detail. It was at the beginning of April, so 1 month ago, Republicans also said they got some big budget deal with the Democrats. A month and a half before the session ends, we've agreed on the targets, and those targets are awful, and I'll go through that in just a minute. So, MinnPost writes, is the Minnesota House power sharing agreement unraveling? DFL leader Melissa Hortman warned of a House floor throwdown amid a fight over education spending, while Republicans asked if the far left hand is out of sync with what the left hand is doing. I mean, clever little talking point, right? Sure.
Not really, because, what Elliot Engen is saying there is that he's in line with what the left hand is doing. Instead of saying the right hand is,
actually didn't think of that.
He's saying the far left hand is further left than the left hand. He's saying he's on board with the left hand.
Yeah, because
that's total BS.
Yeah, using that analogy, the left hand agreed with the right hand, right?
Yeah.
So what he's saying is the far left hand doesn't agree with the left and the right hand.
Right.
Good point.
It's a uniparty bill.
That's a really good point. Okay. So much for bipartisan harmony. On Wednesday, the House Rules and Legislative Administration Committee met to advance the biennial education spending bill to the House floor. You guys remember watching that, yesterday, right? You guys were all watching that. No one? Okay. The $26 billion bill had already cleared the Education, Finance, and Ways and Means Committee by voice votes. Getting through rules is almost always a procedural formality, but committee co-chair Jamie Long, DFL Minneapolis, had other ideas. Quote, we spoke about this proposal yesterday and this morning, and we don't have an agreement, Long said. Long and his 7 DFL colleagues then voted to not put the bill on the House floor schedule. The 8 annoyed and angered Republicans on the committee voted to advance the bill. But with neither party enjoying a legislative majority, the spending package is indefinitely stuck in Rules Committee. This is Jim Nash quote here. I'm just really confused about where we find ourselves trying to disagree on a bill that was already agreed upon, said Jim Nash. Okay, we pretty much called this, right? You come to some power agreement with career liars, right? They act like, well, we have this really good deal with the Democrats who are acting in good faith, the same people that didn't even show up to the Capitol for the first month.
Right.
The same people that ignored all motions on the floor the year before. Oh yeah, the Democrats all of a sudden saw the light, and we're going to all conduct ourselves in a very respectful, honest way. Hello? God.
Right. Democrats are never going to get on anything reasonable. So the Republicans claiming that this is a good deal, that this budget deal is a good thing that's going to be spending our surplus dollars, it's a joke. So if they're saying that the Democrats are on board, that this is a good deal, it's a bad deal. And the Democrats are utilizing their leverage in this position when the Republicans have just as much of an opportunity to do that, except in the other direction, which is what Action for Liberty and The Truth Hurts and other conservatives across our state are advocating for.
As of late Thursday, there was a talk at the Capitol of Republicans trying to move the bill to the House floor anyway. The gamut would not have the votes to succeed, but it would be a vehicle for Republicans and DFLers to yell at each other for the next 8 to 12 hours, according to Speaker Emerita. I thought it was Emeritus. What is it? Speaker Emerita?
Can't even see it on the page.
Boy, do I sound smart. Melissa Hortman, former Speaker Melissa Hortman, DFL Brooklyn Park.
Yeah, Emerita.
So
that's how I'd say
Emerita, that sounds like if Tom Emmer were to transition.
Yeah.
That was a good one, Dawson. Emerita. It's Speaker Emeritus, I thought. Okay, whatever. The DFL leader predicted a throwdown on the House floor. Power sharing fears realized? ? This is what was feared when the Minnesota House ended up in a 67-67 tie. A power sharing agreement between DFLers and Republicans has largely worked in advancing bills that will then be reconciled with the DFL controlled Senate, but it has not worked at all for the states. Oh, okay, let's go back to that statement right there. Okay, so remember, Republicans, the right hand supposedly, shake hands with the left hand making a deal. Right? Now, there's already a far left hand, and that's the Senate Democrats and Walz, right? But the Senate, the far left hand, and the House is already imploding this thing. That's more proof in why the Republicans should never have negotiated with Democrats in the House.
Right.
Because you've just given up any leverage at this point. So they're just saying what's really going on up the Capitol. It's
right. Republicans should have been putting forward their own plan and then forcing the
Right.
Democrats to get behind it. They go after the swing district Democrats and say, you better get in line with this plan, otherwise we're going to notify your constituents that you're the one who is trying to cause a government shutdown. You are the one who is trying to push for this radical spending. Instead, what they're doing is they're caving to the Democrats and pushing uniparty bills instead.
Well, and then, of course, Jesse, as you know, the Republicans will get the blame. I don't know if it'll matter in the election next year, but they'll get the blame because they have the Speaker of the House. It's almost like they had already figured that one out. There's your 4D chess right there. Okay, I continue on. Oh my God, this stuff gets my blood boiling. But it's not worked at all for the state's Department of Education budget, which was weeks late in getting hearings on a final bill. The stated holdup is entirely around an unemployment insurance fund for school workers paid by the hour who cannot find summer jobs. Okay, so if you're thinking that this whole deal is blowing up because Republicans are in disagreement with the Democrats on $26 billion of funding of educating our children, you got it wrong. Nope. They just care about this little tiny provision signed into law by Governor Tim Walz in 2023. The fund is less than 1% of total spending package. It benefits teachers, aides, food service workers, and bus drivers, many of whom are represented by SEIU Local 284. At the Rules Committee hearing, Republicans got in their jabs about DFLers, quote, obstruction. So the DFL's obstruction is over less than 1% of the $26 billion budget. Now, we're not advocating for this extra spending. In fact, we're advocating for a far less spending. But you see what the Republicans did is they put them in a position where they just caved to the Democrats. And now the Democrats go, well, let's get more out of this deal, as if the Senate and Walz didn't already have a big negotiating chip in this whole game anyhow. Does this make sense? Like how just utterly stupid their negotiating abilities are? Now, that's assuming they're negotiating from a position like us, like they actually care about limiting the size and scope of government. That might be a far stretch. I mean, they might not actually care about that, and therefore they're negotiating the deal that they want, right? I don't know which one it is, right? I mean, certainly some of their members, Jesse, really do want government to shrink. And I think this is how we look at the caucus is you got little rhinos who are Democrats that just run as Republicans because they're in the district, right? They're like the Tony Jorgens types. Then you get the establishment hacks, and this seems to be Walter's category these days. They're always trying to promote themselves so they can get to another position in government.
Jim Nash falls in that
they
category.
just want to be in power. They want another job, right? Get reelected, be invited back to the party. But the majority of them are like fence sitters, and I think a lot of those fence sitters really are conservative. They're just a bunch of pussies, and they won't do anything about it. And they're falling in line with the establishment, and you have to understand, and if you were a rookie legislator, you have to understand that those guys' objectives are not your objectives. They're certainly not your constituents' objectives. I'm not sure what happened overnight. This is gravely concerning, gravely disappointing, says Peggy Scott of Andover. And then this is from Elliot, as they put Inger. I don't know who that is. Yeah. Elliot Inger in White Bear Township.
Walter Hudson's boyfriend.
Ingen, right? Yep. Does the far left hand not know what the left hand is doing right now? DFLers mainly steered away from discussing their political tactics. They focused on the stability that they say summer unemployment benefits provide to workers in school districts. As to what happens next, there are a few ways forward or further backward according to the Minnesota Legislative Reference Library. You can go check this out on minpost.com. This is kind of our read on it as well, is that literally things are breaking down, but they're not breaking down because of a general idea of governance. It's on like fringe little issues. And then when we talk about fringe little issues, I can't wait to you see what we're going to talk about in the next segment. But I want to show Dawson. Let's so pull up the A6 real quick. This was the budget deal that came out last. God, what was it? April 2nd. Okay. Yeah, they announced a budget deal on April 1st. That was an April Fool's Day joke, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So the Democrats, $14 billion of their new budget increases were cemented in by House Republicans. That was the deal that we got, right? You can see, scroll down a bit. I got a clean chart there. You can see they went from $52 billion in the previous biennium, 22-23, and grew it to $71 billion. Now, Democrats couldn't keep up that level of spending. Even Walz himself is at $66.3 billion because they don't want to, well, I guess Democrats might want to raise taxes, but at some point, let's just put the peg at the farthest they're going to go is $66 billion. And Republicans have to be right there with them. In fact, they're even $300 billion more than Tim Walz in that biennium. Now, I think a better way to look at this is let's pull up the football field, Dawson. This is
Do you want
if
the
you just took
the empty one?
the
or
empty one, yep.
Okay.
If you just took Minnesota government spending, and this is a real simple way to look at it. What we would advocate for, and what Republicans promise you on the campaign trail when they say government's too big, is really to go back to what we had in a biennium spending in 22 and 23, $52 billion. I think that's too big of a government, but how about we just start there? $52 billion, go back before the DFL trifecta. The far right side of the football field, the big government end zone, if you will, is $67 billion. Now, if you go to that small government end zone, okay, so I got spending on the top, I got tax cuts. If you go to that small government end zone, you free up $19 billion that can be given back as tax cuts or refunds from a surplus, right? I would argue give it back as tax cuts, right? Get that into law. Even if you're in the big government end zone, there's roughly $8 billion in surplus money left over. But the Republicans and Democrats want to hold on to that so they can keep elevated spending. And they're going to still keep $3 billion in a reserve rainy day fund that'll never be used. Okay, so just from a common sense standpoint, from negotiating, we know Tim Walz, we know the House Democrats, we know the Senate Democrats are going to be far in that right red end zone, right? So that means conservatives and Republicans should be far on that left end zone, the blue small government end zone. Put up where they're at, actually, here, Dawson. No, they're both in the red end zone. They're not even on the in a field goal range. They are literally in the end zone already. Tim Walz is actually a smaller budget than the House Republicans. I mean, it's a little bit more complex than that because, quite frankly, he's got some tricks, some accounting tricks, but they're relatively the same thing. They're spending pretty much all the resources. And let's go back to that article real quick. It's even worse than that. They're overspending. Scroll down. I've got at the very bottom, I've got a chart. I think I've got that. No, go back up to that. Let's go that. One above that, Dawson. You can see where it says February 2026, 27. It's the middle column. Do you see how it says on the third row down, $66.6 billion in spending? That's essentially what the Republicans proposed spending. Well, look how many revenues there are. Only $64.5 billion. So they're overspending, meaning they're robbing you of your surplus money. So if you go back to that football field, the House Republicans, when they could give you back a total of $19 billion, assuming they could get that into law, they're giving you back zero, and they're spending on more government. How is that a win for anyone? And then, even with all that being said, and they've caved to the Democrat House members a month ago, so a month and a half before the session ends, the Democrats still go, hey, we want more. We want this less than 1% of spending for this summer, or whatever the hell that unemployment benefits was. You see how absolutely ridiculous of negotiators these people are. Now we got a breakdown here. Let's go to the A3. Wednesday Walter wants to break down and place all blame on Democrats. Let's hear what Mr. Wednesday Walter has to say about this breakdown.
Outrageously, the Democrat members of the House Rules Committee just refused to calendar our education finance bill. Now, that bill was negotiated in good faith between the co-chairs of the Education Finance Committee, Chair Krisha and Chair Joachim.
Okay, stop right there.
And it was passed
so once
by
again,
the...
Now, how utterly stupid are you, Walter Hudson, saying this to us? It was negotiating good faith with who? The Democrats?
Yeah.
Don't you tell us that these guys can't be trusted?
Rhino Ron Krisha. As if Rhino Ron Krisha is the one who was fighting for conservative interests within this education bill. It's such a joke.
Don't they tell us all the time the Democrats can't be trusted, the Democrats are liars and all that stuff? But it was negotiating good faith. You can't have good faith negotiations with these liars. Okay, anyhow, we knew that. You pretend like you didn't know that. Continue on.
Bipartisan fashion by the members of that committee to be on the general register so that we could take a vote on it on the floor. The reason why this is outrageous is because that bill provides crucially needed flexible funding for our school districts.
Okay, now once again,
and
these are Republicans, crucially funded needed spending, right? Not that, hey, we think that the government should shrink. No, we really have to have this $26 billion Education Omnibus bill because it's crucially needed funding. God, I remember Republicans being against growing spending at the state level. That's a long time in the past, apparently. I remember Walter Hudson saying that kind of stuff. All right, continue on.
After having been negotiated in good faith, after having been passed out of the committee, it is now being pushed back against, not by teachers, not by administrators, not by school board members, not by the folks on the ground who are actually doing the work, but by the unions who are working against those very people, those folks on the ground who supposedly they represent and supposedly they have the best interests in mind of. But in point of fact, they are working against you.
Okay, now that's enough.
And it's
because listen, why would we even care what Walter has to say at this point? The guy that comes after us all the time, I don't know. We've only said this since the beginning of these supposed negotiations and deals. Like, you have to know that these guys are coming for everything. Democrats win any bit of power, and they take as much as they can get. Republicans literally have a big bargaining chip here. No budget bill can pass the Minnesota House floor without their support, right? You know, one Republican is needed to vote for any of these things. They have immense power, and they don't use it. And so why do you think the Democrats go, yeah, you know what? Let's mess this up and do another 1% in spending. Because they can, and you guys will get in line to do nothing about it.
Right. Yeah, if we could pull up the A2, I've got an article that this is not published yet, so people are going to be able to get their a first look at this, but it's this is extremely important. The House Democrats are using leverage, and rhinos are demanding support for an unconstitutional education bill. So, as we've discussed, with the GOP and Democrats each holding 67 votes in the evenly split state House, one party can block legislation from passing to strong-arm negotiations. AFRL and other grassroots conservatives argue that House Republicans should utilize this leverage to block any and all unconstitutional omnibus bills. Unfortunately, rhinos oftentimes love big government just as much as the radical left Democrats do, and they refuse to flex their shared majority. On the other hand, House Democrats have whipped their votes to prevent the Education Appropriation Bill, HF 2433, from moving forward. This was seen in the Rules and Legislative Administration Committee yesterday in the House. Since the committee is evenly split with 8 members apiece for each party, the bill cannot advance out of the committee without a majority vote, and the Democrats are refusing to allow that. One might think that the Democrats are upset over something massive, but it is actually a small issue that makes up less than 1% of the total spending package. Democrats' issue with the bill is concerning summer unemployment benefits for certain school workers, likely due to the union boss pressure who donates big money to the Democrats. This means that radical left Democrats are perfectly content with the unconstitutional compromise omnibus bill aside from this one issue. Shouldn't that concern GOP legislators? Instead, the GOP is fighting to push this big government, multi-subject, unconstitutional bill through. Rhinos like Jim Nash and Peggy Scott say they are confused why Democrats won't support the deal anymore and are labeling them as obstructionists. Another useless puppet, Representative Walter Hudson, came to the defense of the big government education bill, as we just watched, and also says they seated Brad Tabke in good faith. Never forget that rhinos gave up serious power and legitimacy when they agreed to seat Brad Tabke, despite the massive election fraud that took place, where 21 ballots were trashed and the race was decided by 15 votes. And to make matters even more pathetic for Republicans, they are now advocating for a bill that the GOP doesn't even have an author on. They are pushing a bill that only has Democrat authors. They've got Democrat Representative Cheryl Uakim and Democrat Senators Mary Kunesh and Steve Swadzinski. So what this means is that Republicans are pushing a bill that they don't even have an author on. They are the ones who are advocating for the Democrat bill while the Democrats are pushing back. This bill increases funding for the woke Department of Education to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. In 2023, the Education Appropriation Bill, HF 2497, set the funding for the Department of Education at around $8.09 billion for 2024 and $8.23 billion in 2025. This year's bill increases the funding to around $8.48 billion for 2026 and $8.23 billion for 2027. And people can see the figures below. I pulled those directly from the 2023 bill and the 2023 and the 2025 Omnibus Education Appropriations Bill. So people can see for themselves that there is an increase for the 2026 and 2027 spending. And this is the woke Department of Education that we all know is propagandizing young kids.
Which is what they always say to us, too, right?
Right.
We get in this big in the next segment. But they always tell us this problem about people in government and the education system the Attorney General, Keith Ellis, and all that stuff. And then where's the follow-through? There's never
Right.
follow-through.
Right.
Oh, we hate fraud, but where's the follow-through? You still fund the programs.
Right. And exactly. This is worse than the last year's budget because, like I said, they're increasing it by hundreds of millions of dollars. So Republicans in the state legislature prove time and time again that they do not want to shrink the size and scope of government and are oftentimes working against that interest. The GOP should be taking notes on what the Democrats are doing right now and employ the same procedural tactics to block wasteful spending in budget bills. Public education has become a breeding ground for leftist propaganda, and instead of fighting for conservative principles, House Republicans have given up and would rather fight on behalf of uniparty omnibus spending bills. The GOP needs to learn to hate the players, not the game. Republicans have leverage to block budget bills and protect taxpayers' surplus dollars. This education bill is set to be brought forward onto the House floor by Republicans on Friday, May 2nd, according to committee chair Harry Niska during the Rules Committee. If this takes place, Democrat leader Melissa Hortman says a throwdown would be taking place on the House floor. Action for Liberty will never back down on our mission to protect liberty for the next generation. The budget bills provide serious opportunity and leverage for House Republicans to shrink the size and scope of government, while rhinos instead defend unconstitutional omnibus bills that violate the MN Constitution and the MN GOP platform. A4L will stay principled, stand alongside grassroots conservatives, and never concede an inch on our freedom and tax dollars. So we see where the Republicans are at right now. They're pushing for an unconstitutional Democrat education funding bill. This increases the Department of Education funding. We got a $10 Rumble rant from Billy22. He says, "Someone please tell Walter to look around the poker table, and if he doesn't know who the sucker is, it's him." And
that's
a great
one.
way of saying it because that's right. If you're playing poker and you don't know who the sucker is, it's usually you. And the Republicans are totally getting fooled. And this is stuff that we knew from the beginning of session when we said, if you seat Brad Tabke, these are the types of things that you're going to get into. Remove the ability for the GOP to just lead the discussion on these bills. And instead what they're doing is working with the Democrats, pushing a Democrat bill. And even the Democrats are saying this isn't good enough for them.
Right.
So the Republicans need
It's never good enough for them.
Right. This is the only chance the Republicans have for leverage is to use it for these budget bills. But instead they're just advocating for the uniparty versions rather
and that's
than
the thing.
putting their own ideas forward.
And we'll get criticized. Oh, you always go after Republicans. Like, what's the point in going after the Democrats? Everyone understands their game. We understand how bad they are.
We would happily go after the Democrats if the Republicans were pushing a plan that we could support.
Yes, then it is. Show how bad the Democrat plan is. But at this point, the Democrats are so bad, and they'll keep changing that peg further and further out. It's like the peg's already in a bad spot because of the Republicans.
Yeah.
So why would we even bother? Everyone knows how bad the Democrats are. In fact, you guys are sounding a lot like Democrats these days.
Right.
I saw Hate Minnesota. What is the possibility that Walter is a DFL plant? I think it's very low. I think Walter's very much explained in this establishment, section of the Republican Party. I mean, unless he was a great faker for the many years I knew him, that he actually had conservative views. I think
he's not a Democrat. He's an establishment Republican.
Yeah, I think
he's baked himself way deep into that.
Getting a conservative government is second to actually his career, and it's in many regards getting a conservative government is contrary to the way to, well, at least in their viewpoint, contrary to how do they get more power. I would argue, embrace the liberty agenda, you might get more power, which would be good in my opinion. Jesse, you wrote Republicans need to start hating the player, not the game. Did you come up with that?
No, that's an expression that's out there, but no.
Well, that's a great one though, because it turns the hate the game, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? You turned it on and said it. I like that.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It is a game. Politics is a game where there's rules, and the Democrats learned how to use these procedural rules to block a vote. And if the Republicans, they have just as much leverage to be able to do it. They have a tie within the House. The Republicans have just as many votes. The 8 Republicans within the Rules Committee could have been doing this for a conservative ideal. And Action for Liberty and the Truth Hurts, we would say that's great. We appreciate them stepping up to the plate and actually fighting. But instead, they're pushing for this uniparty crap, and it's all about tactics. And the Democrats obviously were not with them on the policy end of this, but they're showing tactically how the Republicans should be acting.
Okay, before we go to this next segment here, I want you to pull up the A9. We unfortunately are still waiting as a nation. We're mourning and praying because you have the video ready, Dustin. We don't know if LeBron has recovered or will recover from this.
No, Gobert with an 18th.
Or DiVincenzo. Yes, LeBron's like solid 260, 6'9". But we don't, at this stage, know if LeBron, his road to recovery is going to be long. It's going to be hard. So we can only hope for the best. Little 6 foot. What's that? Is that the video?
I don't
Did
know
I not watch the whole video, or was that a new video?
I think skip
that's
to
a
the
new
next
one.
one.
Okay, I was gonna say that might have been a funny little injection. So we don't know at this point. We just know the road to recovery for 6'9", 260-pound LeBron James is gonna be hard after colliding with like 180-pound, 6'4" DiVincenzo. Was that not great? I stayed up. I really do like the Timberwolves team, right? But I mean, oh my God, LeBron, you just bring, and I don't want to disrespect LeBron that much because he's 40 years old. You know, respect on that, on the age. You know, he's clearly gone down many pegs, but he can still play at that high level at 40.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, his just whining and his faking, like he's meant to be in LA with that Hollywood acting.
You don't see the vision. This is now him saying, I'm getting old. I'm starting to get out of basketball. Let's get into acting. Let's start up the career.
That's
this
right.
Is how we start.
Parlay that NBA career right into acting.
Wasn't he?
Space Jam 2 wasn't good enough.
Yeah, exactly. That movie was terrible. That was so bad. But Space Jam 3? Maybe.
Again with LeBron. Oh, okay. Well, anyhow, prayers go out to LeBron. Hopefully he can pull through that. But yes, the Timberwolves knocked out the Lakers last night. It was a 4-1 victory, in the series. I mean, it's almost shocking the Lakers even won a game. They just dominated. The score didn't show how much the Timberwolves dominated, but they just weren't hitting any threes. Like literally, Ant, who made the most threes in the NBA this year, was 0 for 11 at the 3-point line. I mean, I don't know what happened to Ant last night. He couldn't hit anything. So, I mean, if he just hit half of those or 40% of those, the game wouldn't have been close by numbers. All right. Anyhow, let's move to the next segment. This is brought to you by Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give my good friend Warren a call at 612-419-7453. Billy 22 says, Jake, it's going to be all right. The Lakers will find another spoiled, woke, overrated athlete. It's hard to say LeBron's overrated, but it is no doubt he is not playing the level he used to play. Okay, but the dude still put up 23 points, like 7 rebounds last night, and played more than almost any player on the court. So in that regard, I don't want to be a full LeBron hater. Let me just put it this way: the athleticism of LeBron, I'm not hating on, but the personality of LeBron, it's all fair in game. All fair. All is fair in love and war, right?
Yep.
I kept yelling at the screen. At one point, I counted 5 missed threes in a row, says Tucker 91. It was crazy. I mean, and air balls, too. It was unbelievable. It could have been a much more disastrous thing for the Lakers. All right. Shocking bill going on today. What are they going to be voting on the House floor here soon? Jesse?
Yeah, no, this is the state government finance and, just the finance bill. So the appropriations, this is, where they fund the Attorney General's office and other state government offices, and they have slipped in all kinds of woke nonsense. And, of course, this is going to be on the House floor today. I just went and looked at the Minnesota House floor, and it doesn't look like they are in session right now. So they are going to return to the House chamber at the call of the chair. We'll have to see what time that actually is going to be here. But this state government finance bill is going to be a massive debate. And this is the one that I had previously reported on. That Jim Nash was the Republican author on it that increases the funding for Antifa Keith Ellison and his office. However, since my last reporting, they have amended the bill. They have gone on to give Keith Ellison even more money than I first reported. So even though the pressure was there, the Jim Nash should have seen, hey, conservatives are now aware that you are increasing Keith Ellison's budget. What does he do? He does the exact opposite, and the Democrats and him work together to increase his budget office even more. So
let's put up the numbers here. Dawson, let's pull up let's do it this way. Pull up the B3. I just had something come up on Facebook today. It was that skeleton meme, me waiting for Gazelka to actually hold a vote on ending Walls of Mercy powers. was like, that's interesting. 5 years ago, in the heart of COVID, Paul Gazelka, the Republican majority leader, was not allowing any votes to go forward on ending Walz emergency powers. Now, here's Gazelka, and this is July 1st of 2021. So they were in a special session. And here he is talking about, well, actually, I think this video is before that. Oh, no, he posted this video December 17th of 2020. Okay, so this bill that I'm about to reference was passed in July. So here's Paul Gazelka, the Republican Senate Majority Leader, in December 2020, talking about cutting funding for Keith Ellison. Go ahead and play this. This is him trying to talk tough.
This is Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka, and I'm here to make a message for you to hear, but also for the governor and the attorney general to hear. You cannot keep closing down these bars and restaurants. They're hanging on by a thread. Literally, when you say that they can only open outside and have people gathering, nobody's going to show up when it's 10 below. It's like you're putting a nail in the coffin, and it's over. And these businesses, they're our friends. They're our neighbors. They provide services for us, and we are all so grateful for them. But if we don't step in and stand up for them, they're not going to make it. And so what am I going to do? Well, next year we have to pass a 2-year budget, and the Senate and the House have to agree on how much money the Attorney General gets in his budget. And if you start fining these people $10,000 apiece, you can expect that money to come out of your budget. These businesses need to survive, and just doing this at the last second is not the answer. We need to bring hope.
Okay, so there you go. And this is the words of Majority Leader Paul Gazelka, and this would have been December 2020. July 2021, they passed that budget. Dawson, go ahead and pull up the B4. And just so you know, Keith Ellison did find these businesses. He basically drove the wonderful Lisa Zarza out of the state. And now she's got the sweet-ass bar down, what's that place across from Red Wing? Go visit her, by the way. She's an awesome person. Lisa Hansen goes to jail. Jane Moss fined tremendously. They actually threatened Larvita in a work farm. Isn't that interesting? No, not that one, Dawson. Go to the other one. Would be, there you go. So this is what passed in 2022. No, not that one either. It's going to be the B4. Yeah, scroll down. This is what would have passed in 2023. So you heard Gazelka say, scroll down to the Attorney General pay. This is my bad. I had very limited time before the show. So, Dawson, I'm not... Yep, there you go. All right, so you see roughly, so the first one's the 2022 year, and the next one's 2023. So that pretty much averages out. Click on the 31,614. You see that? Just go across from Attorney General. That's showing the appropriations to Attorney General. Yep, right there on that line. Now, if you go over, those two columns show the 2 different years of the biennium. So the first biennium year was 31,614,000, and the next biennium year is 29,104,000. So let's just say 30 million per year. Okay, that's probably what it averages out to. Okay, and that went up as we reported. Where's that article, Dawson? Go back to that article where the video of Paul Gazelka. I think he increased it by 19%. So that's just a straight up lie. 17%. That's 17. He increased it by 17% that year, which I think amounted to $8 million. So just a blatant lie that they were going to do something to Keith Ellison's budget. But the reason I'm bringing this up, as you just reported, $50 million is the new budget for Keith Ellison. So in just 4 years,
in my reporting, where it was the first bill, the introduction bill that they were pushing, it increased it to $46,919,000 for 2026 and $47,398,000 for 2027.
All right, so pull up the one that's being voted on the floor today, Dawson. That was the one that showed it being about $50 million. There you go. So you see where it says Attorney General, that line item. Basically, it's $50 million each year of the biennium. Okay, quick math here. That means,
that means
in a matter, hold on, let me finish. In a matter of 4 years, they have increased the Attorney General's budget by $20 billion each year, which is 67%. You don't get a dime of your surplus back, but they just increased Keith Ellison's budget by 67%. Mm-hmm. And he's got plenty of time to sue Donald Trump How many suits is he against Donald Trump right now? He's got plenty of time to use that money to sue pro-gun people, or to go to court against pro-gun people, or to sue Fleet Farm. And they're growing Keith Ellison's budget by 67% since the last time a Republican talked about cutting his budget.
That's ridiculous. And, you're saying that there's a 67% increase. Well, there's also a around $3 million increase just in the last 9 to 10 days, because in the last 9 to 10 days, they have updated this bill. And that's what we're discussing here, where we say that it's now up to $50 million compared to the around $47 million that was previously offered in this bill. And this is the bill that Jim Nash is pushing. So, and we'll see how many Republicans are going to get on board with it. This is going to be voted on the House floor today. So people have to keep an eye out for it.
All right. So if some of you guys saw, Mort and I did a video last night for Action for Liberty's podcast, Behind the Smoke Screen, and we talked about this war inside the Republican Party, the Emirites against Action for Liberty. And, our haters say we just only attack Republicans and we're not helping out. It's like, my God, they just assume no one's paying attention to this shit. If it wasn't for Jesse and I looking into this stuff, and you can look it up yourself, and we annotated on whatever we put out there.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
This is what's going on at the Capitol.
Right, exactly. I put every single bill. When I talk about a bill, I always link it in there so that anybody who wants to look it up, they can go and fact check me. And if Jim Nash wanted to fact check me and say, actually, we're not going to be increasing Keith Ellison's budget, I'd love to be wrong about this. However, I can read and I can see where the numbers are, and I can compare it to the 2023 bill. And they're obviously increasing it, and they're increasing it even from their own original plan that was going on just 9 days ago. So this is going to be massive. We'll see how many Republicans vote for it. I think that there's going to be obviously a certain contingent that are going to be voting no, but every single Republican should be voting against an increase to Keith Ellison's budget. Keith Ellison is busy suing Donald Trump. He's busy in a lawsuit against Elon Musk. He's busy taking on men and women's sports. Those are the type of things that the Republicans and Democrats are going to be funding in his office. So when we see Jim Nash, who is going to be giving $50 million to Keith Ellison, you know where that money's being spent: against conservative and Republican interests.
O'Bannon writes, I was expecting more of a juicy story last night. Stick around for the post show if you're a premium subscriber, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, okay? You can go to truthhurtsnews.com, click on support us, or join us on Rumble. Do it right now. Get your locals account. Become a premium subscriber. I'll address more of the juiciness in our post show for you, because that's a great point, O'Bannon. There's more of a story behind that. All right, so as if this budget bill wasn't bad enough, state government financing, let's go back to where it says the LG, and I got to get this right, LGBT. Nope. I do it all the time. Why do I put the T before the B? The B's are always before the T's.
Thinking of bacon, lettuce, tomato?
Well, I'm just so woke, I think the T's are more important than the B's.
There you go.
Okay, LGBTQIAS+, so two-spirited. Nope, I forgot the 2 in there, didn't I?
Come on.
Yeah.
I need to change that. I'm going to make the change. I'm super woke here. Well, we'll see how woke I am. This is in the bill. You'll see the Council on the LGBTQIAS2+. I still forgot the 2. Is roughly $1.5 billion a year.
Million.
I'm sorry, 1.5. Oh, God. See, this is what happens when we talk about budgets.
Super gays.
$1.5 million for the biennium. Now, what is the Council on? I'm not even trying again.
This is the same exact bill that we were just talking about that increases Antifa Keith Ellison's budget. So
yes,
this is the bill that Jim Nash has put his name on. So it's not even just that he's a supporter of this. He has also put his name on as an author. So I don't know if he wrote this section himself.
Yeah, what do you think it's like when he's like inking on this thing?
Yeah.
It's fun. The Council on LGBTQIA2+, 2S+. I'm hopeless. I can't do it. Right?
Yeah.
O'Bannon says, where do I join? truthhurtsnews.com. Click on support us on the top or on Rumble. What?
I thought they were talking about how do I join the Council on LGBT.
That's a great point. I don't know which one. Yeah. O'Bannon, do you want to know how to join? Well, great point. Or you can go to Rumble and hit join us there. But if that's not what you're asking, if you're asking where you join, go to the B2 Dawson. Here is just exactly what the Alphabet Council is. The Council on Alphabet. Welcome. Oh, I got to pull up my screen. There's no way I'm reading it from up there. All right. So welcome to the Council on Alphabet Plus Minnesotans. The Council on Alphabet Plus Minnesotans works for the implementation of economic, social, legal, and political equality for Minnesota's community of people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, gender expansive, queer, intersex, asexual, and or two spirits. Speaking of gays, Louder with Crowder just did an undercover piece revealing that 90% of the DHS employees are gay or lesbos.
I didn't realize he was still doing a show. I haven't heard of him in forever.
What is Brad saying? Can Dawson show us the girl's ring? What's he mean by that?
What?
I don't know what he means by that.
A Nuva ring? What are you
All right. I don't know. That's what he just said. Can Dawson show us the girl's ring?
And I noticed in their little explanation there, they leave out the plus. they say they're representing the interests of all, they hit all of the letters, but they don't say plus.
What's plus though?
Everything else, everything except straight.
So they're non-inclusive even in their own description.
Right.
Ridiculous.
Well, it is interesting. Let's just say I bought into this bullshit. It's simple as male, female, or non-binary, right? Because then that just includes everything else. Or it could just be plus. But they don't have to do that. They have to list all these categories.
Peggy Flanagan is in that picture there. She's the one that's...
Are you sure that's Peggy?
It looks like Peggy.
Could be.
The one in that
I know, but that looks
thing,
like pretty much every left-leaning woman in...
I'm pretty sure that...
Inside
maybe. It could
Ramsey
be.
and Hennepin County, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks like her.
It does. They're not fully distanced there. That person wearing the mask. I hope she's okay. Or wait, he. No, I don't know. Maybe I don't know the pronoun. All right. By the way, did you guys see? Clearly, Michelle Obama. Did you see the slip up yesterday?
You did send me your tweet.
Isn't that hilarious? I all of a sudden got a lot of lefties on my thing, and some people on the right, like pissed at me because, like, as if I believed it. Like, I just literally said I never believed the Mike Obama, but I thought it was
it's
fun.
More fun to believe it.
No, pull up the tweet there, Dawson.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Because.
I don't really believe it either, but it's like it's more fun if Michelle Obama's a guy, and especially when there's so much that you can't trust from the government, and when we see what Candace Owens has put out there about Emmanuel Macron's wife, there's lots of questions out there, and I don't put anything past these people. I think Obama was always a CIA plant, and that he was designed to be president before he had ever gotten famous. So the deep state had already pre-selected him. So who knows what Big Mike is up to?
Well, I've said a long time on the show that I believe that Michelle Obama is a woman. In fact, she's a good-looking woman. Okay.
Yeah, you got some people looking at this thing. 9.2 thousand views.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I get some traction. I never get traction in X, but I like saw this somewhere. I was like, okay, let's see if this is even true. I found her podcast and it says it. So I wrote, I've never been one to believe the Michael Obama conspiracy, but here Michelle Obama says, as a black man, ... This was on the podcast She, He, They released today on their YouTube channel. I thought my sarcasm came across in that tweet.
I read it.
What's that?
I read it, but Twitter is illiterate. So.
I know. I was like, well, apparently people didn't. Anyhow, listen to what Michelle Obama says here. This is very interesting.
Role model for dealing with a child that's transgender.
Absolutely.
And that's, that warms my heart, particularly as a black man. Would you care to share that journey of...
So people come she was clearly talking about the black guy there. And I'm like, yes, but it's like the way she said it was she brought as a black man together with, this warms my heart kind of the comment.
Right.
So it sounds like that is the part she's referring to instead of like, now I'm going to question period, which is probably what she meant, right? Mm-hmm. But, I also thought, this is really funny. The fact that this comes out with that big conspiracy. O'Bannon says Jake is directed. Dudes, that is 100% not true. How dare you say that,
O'Bannon says not good looking. We've had this conversation on the show before. Michelle Obama is a pretty lady.
I think she's
sometimes.
a pretty lady, yeah. We can say that, yes. I don't agree with her at all.
But then the problem is, if she's a man, then we're in deep
shit. It looks
shit.
bad.
Yeah.
That looks real bad for me. I wouldn't say Macron's wife is a pretty looking woman, so okay.
No.
But Michelle does look like a good looking woman. All right, let's go back to the Alphabet Council. And by the way, this is funny. The URL is mn.gov /LGBTQIA2S. Damn, I really wanted that URL.
There's no plus in there either.
Well, can you do a yeah? You could do a plus in URL.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
These
We
guys
should
are so-
we should have, you know what we should do? We should start a council for the pluses and like just troll everyone that doesn't include us on their site. I bet a lot
That's
would
pretty
respond to us. Oh my God. We shouldn't have said this public. We'll scratch this out of the episode. We should totally do that. All right. Actually, I know a guy that would spend some time doing that. Go ahead and click on that survey. Let's do the survey here. Minnesotans LG. Oh God, I can't do it. All right. Let's take the survey today. About the survey. All right, here we go. I'm sure this is going to ungay us. Click the button to continue. All right, we got one question right.
Here, let me
Can you make it? There you go.
Sorry.
All right. The Council on the Alphabet Plus Minnesota is conducting a comprehensive community needs assessment, including a statewide community needs survey. This survey is an opportunity for the Alphabet Plus individuals 18 and older and parents of the Alphabet Plus youth to share experiences, challenges, and priorities to help shape policies, programs, and advocacy efforts in Minnesota. All right. Click on next there, Dawson. All right. Yep. All right. Okay. Whatever. Oh, look at all those great Republican groups that are joined.
Yeah.
Did you know? Okay, keep going. Let's get to the survey. I want to talk about myself. All right, here we go. What is your relationship to the Alphabet Plus community? This determines which version of the survey. So, are we a member of the community who is 18 or older? I'm the parent caregiver. Let's do that one. Yeah, let's see what they do with the people they're trying to groom. All right. Click the button. Continue survey.
Jeez,
All right, what do we got
I have
here?
seen way better survey layouts than this. This is crazy.
Does your child currently live in Minnesota? Yes. Okay. Next question. What's the next question?
What?
How old is the person that you're filling out this form for? If you're a parent or caregiver, let's put 1. Do you currently live in the same house as the child you are filling out this form for? No, I do not live with them. We're going to make this as bad as possible. Where in Minnesota does your child currently primarily live? They do not live in Minnesota. Well, no, we better say they do. Yeah.
Metro.
Yeah.
It's probably, yeah.
How would you describe the community your child lives in? Tribal nation. How many years has your child lived in Minnesota? Well, we said there once. Should we say more than 5 years?
Life.
Yeah, their whole life. If your child moved to Minnesota in the last 3 years, why did they move here? But the LGBTQ2+ connections down there.
If our 1-year-old is
Yeah, there you go. Oh, right. All right.
you
Click
can,
on
this
next.
is multiple choice too.
Oh, well, then click them all, right?
Hell
There you
yeah.
go. We should just put avoid discrimination in housing. Oh my God. This is your government. This is being fully funded by Jim Nash and the Republicans here. How does your child describe their sexual orientation? Select all that apply. Can they do it all?
Yeah.
Say my child has not determined this yet. By the way, they're also asexual, bisexual, gay.
M spec.
Oh my
That's new.
God.
What's M-spec?
I don't even know. We have to learn every day.
I haven't even heard of that
They
one.
they don't even have the plus. Once again, how far along in the survey are we? Yeah.
Yeah.
How far along are we on the survey? This might take too long.
Ugh.
Oh,
Yeah.
forget this. I think someone's gonna be suicidal by the time they're halfway through this damn survey. This is what's being funded.
Skooma Legend says,
listen.
what if it's an illegal immigrant trans kid? So adding
Well,
another
welcome
layer
them
to
in.
it. Yeah.
What if they're in the 13 gang? You know, I want to do the show on getting to the bottom of that guy that was deported by Trump if he was an MS-13. You guys saw the back and forth with ABC guy?
I didn't watch
Dude,
it.
that
I
was-
heard about it.
I watched that. That was really silly.
I don't know what to believe. Honest to God, I don't believe Trump all the time. Did you see Trump tweeted out yesterday, this stock market's Joe Biden's stock market? I'm like, no, it's not. No one believes that. Like, everyone knows that the stock market's reacting to, good or bad, to your tariffs. Everyone knows that. But he's acting like this is still the Biden stock market. I'm like, you don't need to gaslight us, Trump.
a hard
If it's
time.
Trump, maybe it's someone else doing his truth.
Well, to an extent, I mean, it is the economy that was handed over to
Oh my
him.
gosh, stop.
You know, it's true. It's true.
Oh, my God. Well, a lot of the
Biden doesn't hold any blame for the state of the economy. Give me a break.
Certainly he does, but I think it's very well known that the stock market's recent performance is very much a reaction to Trump's policy on tariffs, even if they're not fully implemented. Which, just so you know, that doesn't mean that companies...
It's a positive influence on...
Well, it could be. Yeah, we don't know. It was just a negative reaction on the future pricing of valuations of stocks. It doesn't mean they're less valuable. It's just they think that's what will happen. The stock market's always making future predictions. Anyhow, I was just like, Trump, Trump, you don't need to say that.
I just got to throw it out. On like January 31st, when the stock market was up, Trump was tweeting, "This is the Trump stock market."
Did he really?
Yes. Well, I mean, of course he did, but then...
Did he? No, like literally, you see that?
Yeah. It was a tweet by Destiny, who was just screenshotting it, which I thought was funny.
Well, okay, if Destiny put it, we better fact check that. But like, I could believe Trump saying that because a lot of things were happening before Trump even took office. But just think about that. Like Trump, don't give the left an easy one. Now, Ganser disagrees.
Well,
Not
and
true, Jake.
also
The stock market is pricing in all relevant information. I know, I agree. I'm oversimplifying it, but let's be honest. The moves of the stock market were very much based on the tariff war, right?
No, the reaction to the tariffs. It's not the tariffs themselves. It's the business owners and whatnot.
Correct.
That are, but
future pricing. That's what the stock market is.
Right. It's one of those things that Trump was just saying in a town hall with Cuomo and Stephen A. Smith and Bill O'Reilly that it's part of the problem is that he's working against the media too. He's got the media who is doing nothing but trying to propagandize people into working against these tariffs, when what he's saying is we've had all of these deals that are going on around the world where we're taken advantage of, and I'm not going to allow it to happen anymore. Is there going to be some sort of fallout because of it? Yeah. But, Trump is going to be working out all of these deals anyway, so this is all short-lived. And nothing to worry about.
I'm not even making that argument, Jesse. I'm just saying the fact that he kind of gaslights us on it. Like, dude, you don't need to say that. Like, a lot of people are still on board with you, right? It's just future pricing the stock market. Unless you actually have to take out a bunch of stocks, into cash, yes, then it's a problem. But is this from Destiny?
This is the Trump quotes, or truths, or whatever he calls it.
But what's the source here?
It is. Do you want me to go back to his truth page and find it?
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather check because I don't trust Destiny at all. I wouldn't be shocked.
I mean, yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked at it. I'm just saying I wouldn't trust him as a source.
Well, hold on. I want to see what Trump was saying there anyway on the second one. This is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th. Tariffs will soon start kicking in, which, also keep in mind the tariffs aren't even kicking in like he's saying there. And companies are starting to move into the USA in record numbers. Our country will boom, but we will have to get rid of the Biden overhang. This will take a while, nothing to do with tariffs, only that he left us with bad numbers, but when the boom begins, it will be like no other. Be patient. What's wrong with that?
That's not what I'm saying. What's wrong is that...
Also, that's not January this year. That's January of last year.
Right. So he's sitting there claiming when it's good and then when it's bad.
Yeah, but I mean, in this context, I thought you were saying January this year, which would be like... If he said that January, like right before he took office, that would be indistinguishable. But there's still a year where he could blame it on
this
Biden.
Isn't even just a Trump. Every politician ever does this.
I know.
So
once again, I got a little... I'm like, geez, you don't need to say that, Trump. I don't agree with that. But it's not like people don't still agree with him on the policies, right? And, well, okay, I don't want to go down that road. The point I was trying to make is this ABC interview, which was really shocking to me. I'm just trying to scan about the story, and that's why I thought we should do a show on it, because I think a lot of you guys probably want to get to the bottom of this. What is true? Did this guy literally have MS-13 gang tattoos on his hands, as Trump really doubled down on, which I could believe that the media is lying about, or Trump? I could also see Trump not being correct on it. What's the truth?
Did you see the?
Will we ever know the truth on this stuff? It's almost like I had to dedicate a whole show trying to figure it out, and I don't know if we could.
I don't think that we could. I watched that thing a few times because I was curious about it too. And the tattoos on his fingers, I mean, if he's a gang member or not, I would guess he probably is. But on his hand, it was like a bunch of shapes or whatever, a skull, a cross.
Yep.
And then they had photoshopped literally the MS-13.
I saw that same image, which I assume is them trying to translate.
Right, them translating it. But I think that Trump was like, no, that's what he has on his fingers, and it seems
which I could
like,
see Trump also being confused on that.
I mean, yeah, he's an old man. It's just one of those things.
But
where
you
it's
know,
like,
I don't like. This is the problem: is what is right and what is wrong. And I almost thought, I don't know, maybe you guys could weigh in on this. Should we do a whole show on these big things?
But it doesn't even matter. You know, I mean,
I think it does.
I don't
like,
care about the tattoos at all, just because the guy was deported because he was a criminal and he was illegal. That's all I need to know. I don't even care if he was an MS-13 or not. If you're not supposed to be here legally and if you're committing crimes, get the hell out.
That's very true.
How did you know he was illegal?
What
I don't think
mean?
his
That's not even in dispute.
citizenship is debated here.
Yeah, that's not even in
That's
dispute.
what the left says.
No. What they
Do
say
they?
is what they're arguing. What the left says is he was a legal resident because he filled out the paperwork to say that he was fleeing whatever
He
the
was using
terminology
asylum
is.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
asylum, right? So that's all just bogus BS, liberal ways of trying to bring in millions of unvetted people into our country. So no, he's obviously an illegal immigrant.
But okay.
Wait, let's look it up. Abrigo Garcia. That's his name.
I'm honestly surprised we haven't talked about this sooner. It's been a huge story.
Well, we try to stick more with Minnesota news. Killer Abrigo Garcia, this is from the New York Post, bragged he could kill his wife and get away with it. She claimed it in newly unearthed protective order request. So this is from New York Post. Alleged. Oh, shoot, I got a pop-up ad. 1 second. You know what? I'll just dump it in here, Dawson.
Right. You know, and that's the thing. We got criminals out here that are claiming asylum. It's like, yeah, you're running from a country that was going to put you in prison anyway. So we're not here our country is not supposed to be harboring criminals and giving them that asylum treatment. You know, the asylum is supposed to be for exclusive people who are fleeing danger or who are fleeing an oppressive government. That is not what is going on in these cases. These are just people who are trying to take advantage of the law. And if they're misstating their actual reason for applying for that asylum claim, that's another reason to deport them. And I see Tucker91 says, "Who cares? He's an illegal who beat his wife and threatened to kill his wife and girlfriend. No due process for illegals." And that's kind of my position
this
too.
This is New York Post. Alleged MS-13 member Kilmar Abrigo Garcia once boasted he could kill his wife, and no one could do anything to him, according to a request for a motion for protective order she filed in 2020. I also have a recording that he told my ex-mother-in-law that even if he kills me, no one could do anything to him. I mean, that doesn't mean it's true, by the way. People say stuff to the court all the time. But the newly surfaced document preceded a 2021 protective order request that she filed against her husband. In that document, she alleged he had punched, scratched, and grabbed her, with some of the alleged abuse so severe she has left the bruises and bleeding. Now, remind me, this is the guy that, what's his nuts, went down and met with it in...
was it Chris Van Hollen?
Yeah, Chris Van Hollen. Okay, it is. On April 17th, Chris Van Hollen met with them. This is so fascinating. The Democrats are... Like, this guy's not a good dude. All right.
Right.
Click
And
on
obviously, it would be better if there was due process to have a court that says, here's the process, whatever. But, we have such a broken system in our country where we have these immigration courts and they're filled to the brim. There's too much backfill. And it's because we got millions of illegal immigrants in our country, thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala. And so we do not have time to be able to go through each and every single little case. If you're illegal, get out. And I think that's the message that Trump is saying.
So
there is so much, there's so many people that are going to be leaving the country on their own. And that's what these illegal immigrants should be doing. They should be seeing all of this as a sign that get out before ICE gets you.
That's super dangerous because it's the same thing with, it's not capital punishment, but it's similar where it's like, you've got all of these people, say the majority of them needs to get deported, but there are going to be people in there that are being caught in the crossfire, being deported to
But they're still here illegally.
Right. There's going to be good people that are deported. That, even if they're good people, they're still illegal.
You're saying, what are these courts only trying illegal immigrants?
No, immigration courts cover all kinds of topics.
You are afforded due process if you are a citizen of the United States.
Right, okay, and...
The problem with due process, I would still argue for due process for anyone, but the problem with due process for an illegal alien is, where do they await their time in court?
Right.
If you're
and
here
we've got
illegally.
all kinds of corrupt judges, like the one that was just arrested in Wisconsin, that is protecting
Yes.
these illegal immigrants from deportation. So we can't even trust our judicial system at this time. That's why, people say it's executive overreach. No, it's ICE finally getting the job done. And they have to do this in this situation.
I advocate for more legal immigration. I don't have a problem with people that are here trying to, which is the vast majority of them, make a better future for himself, provide economic benefit to our
disagree.
country. You might disagree with that. I'm not. I think so. But you
That
can't
means you
allow
are pro
an illegal
great
program.
replacement theory. If you want to bring in more people, you want to replace the ones of us who are already here.
What?
No, well, that's a little bit different than what I'm trying to say, because there are jobs that they fill that most of us do not want. I think that's pretty known. You agree with that, right?
Well, I mean, Americans will do those jobs.
Will they?
Of
Like going and
course.
picking
I mean, look at
strawberries
farming. Our country was built on all of these farmers, and now all of a sudden we're saying that white people don't want to farm? Give me
No,
a
they
break.
don't.
There's all
No.
kinds of people who are willing to work. It's
Not a lot. I mean, kids would. I mean, that's true. I mean, farming's different. I actually have a friend that's a farmer, and he hires Mexicans, by the way, because that's who you hire is Helping Hands is dairy farm. Like, it's crazy. I have a friend I went to college with that's a dairy farmer. That does not exist. Farmers are aging these days, okay? Now, I think there is something to be said about a lot of those low-skilled jobs were handled by kids on the farm, and that might not be bad for us to go back to that. My first job was on a dairy farm. You know, I'm glad that was my first job. So
you want to bring them in just for low skilled, not high skill. So that's
Both.
not merit based immigration then either.
So I don't think that- I don't
I think if
that
there's
it
jobs
replaces
here, I
Jake-
think it's fine to have a system where people can come to our country. They shouldn't get voting rights, but they should pay taxes on what they're doing, and it shouldn't undercut our domestic labor force, right?
And
But
should
there are
they be able to-
definitely jobs
and
that we don't want to do.
Should they be able to pay at lower rates than they pay American citizens?
Yes, because I don't think government should mandate the wages. If someone's willing to work,
Okay, but
willfully
we already
work
live
at
in a
job.
system where they do mandate it. So are we saying that the
I'm
illegals
against
don't?
that.
Okay,
I'm
but
100% against that.
I get it, but in the system that we have, should the rules apply to the illegal immigrants or just us?
No. We agree on illegal immigrants. We 100% agree on that. What
Well,
I'm saying
I'm
on
saying
illegal,
even ones that you're saying that get to come in here legally just to be able to work and not vote and whatnot, should they be able? I'm saying should they have to be paid the same as someone that's an American
you leave
citizen?
that up to the private sector.
Jake, you don't think that legal citizens should be allowed to vote?
Illegal citizens.
Yeah, he's saying people
thought
that
we
are
were
brought
talking
in
about-
just for work.
I thought we were talking about legal.
No, this would be like a
visa
like a
program.
visa program. No, because there's a problem if you all of a sudden allow an influx of people to all of a sudden have voting rights. That should be very hard for someone to come to America and have voting rights.
I think it is very hard.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that program.
Yeah.
The issue I have is the most people that are coming up here not to vote, right? The Democrats want to make them a voting bloc, but they don't come up here to vote. They come up here because, quite frankly, there's a better chance of providing for your family in the United States of America.
And we got a
And
farmer.
that's a
We got a
good
farmer in the
quality.
comments here. Billy22 says Americans will do any job. It's just a matter of what wage. Wage stagnation is in the discussion, and he's right.
True,
You
it's
know,
very true, yeah.
We say, they don't want to do these jobs. Who do you think is cleaning the sewers? Americans. Who do you think are doing all of these tough jobs, around our country? Do you think anybody wants to work at Walmart? No, but there's plenty of people working at Walmart. So for us to say that Americans don't want these jobs, maybe it's not their first choice, but they'll do these jobs.
Yes, but think about this. It's actually, you almost look like this is where, like in a closed way, like there's only X amount of jobs. But if we bring in this new labor force for unskilled work, that frees up the time of people with a little bit more skills to pursue other ventures, creating new businesses, work in new space of technology with better paying jobs, helping expand our economy. So we can have our cake and eat it too. The thing that we really agree on is you can't just allow this illegal influx of people, because then you get these people that come over here and do bad things. And that's why Trump's got the right priority. You go
Right.
after the MS-13 gangs and the people here
Right, because
committing crimes
the
first.
child trafficking and
Right.
whatnot, and that's part of the problem too. It's like even some of these people that are, I'm just here to work. There's all kinds of nasty things going on where they got kids working and
thought
all of
kids
the
working-
trafficking and whatnot.
I
So
thought kids working was good. I thought we liked that.
well, kids should be in school, you'd imagine.
I would hope so, not working on a farm, right?
Right.
So we should probably have the unskilled labor force doing stuff like that.
That is the unskilled labor force coming in.
Kids?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, in some
it's,
regards,
yeah,
yes.
definitely. I mean, it's not just kids. Obviously, I'm
Well,
not
that's
saying
the
that.
other
I'm saying
problem
that
with
that-
this illegal immigration is the kids that come across the border are being trafficked. That's why this is such a massive problem. So all I'm trying to say is, if I was trying to figure this out, trying to solve the problem, I have a more liberalized immigration process, not to become a full citizen, but to work here, which I think could expand the economy and help us all out, right? But we have to draw the line is you have to go through the process. And the Democrats are much against that, and a lot of the Republicans are too, but they won't tell you that, right? And that's where Trump really went hard on it. Okay, we got away from this. I want to go back
Tucker
to...
says, I've worked on dairy farms myself. They will hire kids, Dawson.
That's not
you know,
good.
this stuff is absolutely going on.
That's fucking stupid.
It's stupid. It's happening.
So will coal mining companies. They'll hire kids. Well, they're not allowed to anymore. But
right. And especially in other countries, you see that kind of stuff happening all the time. And that's why, you know, Americans try to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Yes.
And, you know, I do not want to, you know, have our country having these Mexicans coming into our country illegally just to use them as almost slave labor, just to use them as cheap labor. I don't think that's exactly going to be good for the economy either, because then it sets in a new permanent class of a lower class. So, like I said...
Yeah, but in America, you can work yourself up to a higher class. That's what's beautiful about our system.
But these people wouldn't.
Why wouldn't they?
Because you're saying that they're only getting the work visa. They're only there to work for that job.
But that's still helping them out. It's helping our overall economy.
But there's no ladder in that. They can't go any higher.
Well, maybe it's the ladder that goes back to Mexico, but as long as it's still helping our country, what's the problem with it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're
maybe in that they work go up the ladder, and that's how they get incentivized to become a citizen, and that would seem to be a predictor of a really good conservative voter too. Mm-hmm. Someone's very productive and probably a small business owner. I see this in a very optimistic way, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, we're way off. I mean, maybe this is for another day. Seems like we have some disagreements on this, but I mean, the point we're trying to make is New York Post has a link here to I gotta go back to the article. It links to alleged MS-13 member. You see that? So when you click on that link, it says DA nominee tells Senators Kilmore Abrigo Garcia tattoos consistent with MS-13 membership.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
yeah.
So it's not just Trump, but his administration saying this.
Right. It's the district attorney, and this is in Maryland, right?
I mean, this is what's problematic, but the media wants you to believe you can't trust the media at all. I don't know. It's not like they're 100% wrong all the time.
If the district attorney is from Maryland, Maryland is a very blue state.
Yeah.
So you'd figure that means that it's a liberal prosecutor that's saying this, which gives even more credibility to the claim that this guy needed to be deported.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't know how we can go through with any more of this stuff. I mean, we still are waiting LeBron James' full recovery. I mean, I don't even know if I can cover any other topics during this period of time. Our nation is waiting. We're waiting for the results of LeBron James, his full recovery from hitting little DiVincenzo. By the way, it's always funny to think about that. Little DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo's like 4 or 5 inches taller than me. These are small guys in the NBA. It's so humbling. What is Mike Conley, like 6'1", 6'2"? Like, that's a small guy. Gosh, those guys are giants. All right. This last segment is brought to you by John Galt Mortgage Company. Very fiery debate, by the way. Very, very much appreciated, Jesse. That's what's great about this show. We don't always agree on everything. Mm-hmm. Brought to you by John Galt Mortgage Company. If you looking to buy a home, give the good guys at John Galt Mortgage a chance at financing a home. Go to johngaltmortgage.com.
Oh, it looks like we might finally have an answer on what Brad was talking about earlier. He says, I'm sure Brad was referring to the young lady's hand that was next to Dawson, was briefly visible, and at the beginning it looked like there was a ring on the finger. So I can't remember what Brad said exactly, but I think that makes sense.
Oh, well, I mean, they didn't get to see Crystal, but what a flattering comment, right? Very good-looking woman.
Mine's better.
Very safe way to maneuver that one there, Dawson.
I know.
But I don't think she had an engagement or a wedding ring on either.
She was telling me a little bit about it. I probably shouldn't talk about it.
No, I was giving her crap about it. Okay. Very good pro-Second Amendment chick. Like her a lot. We were just showing her the studio. I was like, stick around. We're going to go live. Watch it. So, maybe there'll be more to come on Crystal. But like a good, awesome, like, patriotic woman, right? And a damn good shooter, just FYI. So there you go. You can learn how to shoot with her, Dawson. But no, not the infamous fiance, Brad. Good try, though. Good try. This was just announced before we were going live. Trump ousts Mike Waltz. I was very careful to put Mike Waltz, on the little bar on the bottom because exactly I just noticed this, Dawson. You did exactly what I was fearful of. Even if you didn't accidentally spell Mike Waltz's name wrong, which you did because you didn't put the T. Some people still spell Walz's name wrong and put a T in it. I was like, if I just put Trump ousts Waltz, people would be like, oh shit, what's going on with Tim Walz? Mm-hmm. So it's not that. That'd be really good. But this is still pretty good. This is according to Politico. It's been reported all over the place, so I shouldn't just say Politico. Trump plans to oust National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, infamously from Signalgate, right?
Yep.
Although it seems like Pete Hegseth might have a problem with Signal chats as well. President Donald Trump is planning to oust National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who has lost the confidence of other administration officials, according to 5 people familiar with the decision. He could leave imminently, but the move is not final, the people said. Trump is known to pivot away from plans he tells staff and even announces publicly. All 5 people were granted anonymity to discuss information that is not public. Names for replacement have been discussed around the West Wing for weeks, but the plans to remove Waltz potentially as soon as this week gains steam in recent days, according to 2 of the people and another person close to the White House. All right, you're the Trump guy here on set. What do you think about this?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think I even said on a previous show that Mike Waltz was the one who was behind it all. Mike Waltz was the one who should pay the price for this thing. And he's got that Alex Wong, who is his deputy staffer, and the guy who is the assistant running that department of national security. And that guy was a total deep state actor. His wife was putting January 6 people in jail in her role. And so I was so happy to see that this news has come out there. I'm waiting for it to be official to fully celebrate, but Michael Waltz was never any good in my mind. He's a big-time neocon rhino, and I was mostly happy with most of the cabinet selections. Michael Waltz was not one of the people I was excited about. So I hope that Trump takes this in another direction. I know that he sometimes just wants to have multiple voices in the room to understand different perspectives. That's not necessarily a bad idea, but this is a very critical position that we don't want to see some run-of-the-mill standard neocon. And that's what Mike Waltz was. I think that Trump has seen the writing on the wall that this guy is no good. The fact that Waltz was bringing in all of these establishment people to be helping run the National Security Agency, it's, and within that department, it's... I'm celebrating. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see it. I think that this guy was no good. One of the worst people within the Trump administration. So, and I don't necessarily put the blame on Hegseth. Some people want to pin it on him as well. So far, Hegseth has done an okay job, and there's still a lot of battles and tests to come along. But in the end, Mike Waltz was the one who put together the Signal group. He was the one who added that reporter onto the chat. He was the one who was, leading this entire thing. So, and he also lied constantly. He was saying that he didn't know who this reporter was. They had never met him, and this and that and this and that. The reporter was, was out there saying the exact opposite. And actually, even the reporter was holding back information, I think, too, because the reporter didn't necessarily want to spill the beans on his entire relationship with this Mike Waltz. They've been connected for years, and for Mike Waltz to try to deny it was not a good look. And I think that Trump says, I don't need these liars in my cabinet. So the fact that Mike Waltz is going to be the first one fired out of the Trump administration cabinet, I love it.
Yep. All right. I don't disagree with what you just said there. So great news. All right, let's go to the post show. We'll address, I think it was O'Bannon. We'll talk a little bit about that. If you're not a premium subscriber, go to truthhurtsnews.com, click on support us on the top, or on Rumble, click on join us for $8 a month or $88 a year. By the way, I had someone come by before the show started. It was our first cash membership, bought an annual membership. He doesn't do credit cards. I was like, well, okay, I guess technically, yeah, you got to get a locals account. I'll give you backdoor access. But I was like, wow, that was a first. $88 cash. Usually people just pay online. I don't know if he doesn't want the government tracing him. That's our kind of people. I love it. Anyhow, first there. I also got another announcement here. Something and a benefit You can save 25% on something. If you go to the post show, we'll talk about it. 25%, big discount. So we'll be live in 1 minute. Thank you to our great sponsors. Warren Wetzel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give Warren a call at 612-419-7453. If you're buying a home, go to the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. And we're brought to you by Alpine Cabin in the great city of St. Cloud, Minnesota. Thank you to Rumble Rants. I think we had Brad Ganser for sure, and the second one wasn't K-Wall. Who was the second one? Was it Billy 22?
Yes, I believe so. Let me scan through and check.
Make sure we got it right.
Yep, Billy 22.
Billy 22.
And
Thank
Brad.
you very much.
Yep, thank you guys.
Not to be confused with Billy 2222, which is in our post show.
Yep, and it looks like the house is still not live, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But like we talked about, the state government finance bill is going to be up for the discussion along with 4 other bills. So we'll keep people in the loop and maybe address it on Tuesday.
All right, let me give you some of the juicy stuff from last night's show with Mort and what we didn't cover, and then also learn how you get 25% discount on in the post show. All right, we'll see you there in 1 minute. Everyone else, we'll be back on Tuesday. Take care.